I wrote a lot about this, approval seeking and all that. I wrote in my very first book, Your Erroneous Zones, written back in 1975. But I didn't always practice it because I used to read, I'd put something out there, I'd do an interview, I'd be on a talk show or something, and there would be stories about me the next day, and I'd read my reviews when I'd write a book, and, and so on. And I think at this time now, and especially in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I've actually really, truly gotten into a place in my life where it just doesn't make any difference. And the reviews are something that I just have very little to do with. And I gave a speech Saturday in Las Vegas, and I was talking about this whole idea of living your life free of being concerned about what the outcome is, whether people are going to like it or not going to like it, and what a freeing place that is to be in your life. This whole idea that you treat other people's opinions, whether they're good opinions or whether they're bad opinions, exactly the same. So if someone gets up there and tells you how wonderful you are and you're the greatest and you're the best, you treat that exactly the same as if they tell you what a jerk you are and how you're. And one of the places that I see where I get to practice this is on Amazon, because on where my books are listed on Amazon, they have reviews, and almost every day there's a new review or two in there of a book. There's, Wishes Fulfilled probably has 200 or 300 reviews in there now of people, and it'll be very interesting to read them and just go down and, one will have 5 stars or whatever, 4, whatever their maximum number is, and just say how wonderful it is, and another one will do that, and then another one will come along with a half a star and tell me, that he's writing books because he's just out there to make money and try to, capitalize on other people's troubles. And I think when a person does that, I think, you could never even imagine that. I go over there and I sit down and I write and write and write, and the pressure that is there, and the anxiety, and the to take an empty page of paper with nothing on it and to fill it with something just from your own consciousness, and to make it come out as a book, and to sit there for 5, 6, 7 hours a day for a year, and that the reason that I'm sitting there doing it is because how much money I can make and who I'm going to rip off, and what, it's like there's just never a possibility of that even being a thought in my head. I write because writing is something that I have to do. And being concerned about whether people like me or don't like me, whether people buy it or don't buy it, it's never been a concern for anything that I've ever done. And I would suggest that's true for great artists and musicians and, people who have made, huge impacts and so on. They don't go to their studio and paint every day because somebody else is going to be out there making a lot of money and buying them. I mean, Van Gogh never made a penny in his entire lifetime from all of the great paintings that he made. He painted because painting is his soul, it's his excitement, it's what aligns him with your source of being. And it's the same with me with writing. But people who are not there, people who are short of money, who don't have as much or so on, will immediately transpose their idea of, the only reason that I would sit down and do that is because I could make some money, and that's the reason that they're not making money, and that's the reason that they're not writing. Whereas a writer or an artist or a musician or a creative person of any kind goes in there, whatever it is that they're doing, and they do it because in their soul they're saying, this is what excites me, this is what aligns me with who I truly am, who I showed up here to be, where you're no longer concerned about whether people like or don't like what you say. And that, like, I've just written a book I'm just finishing up now, but it's still an enormous amount of work left to do before it'll be published, called I Can See Clearly Now. And I know as I go through these chapters every day and edit them and so on, I know in my soul that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to give me a lot of criticism for the things that I am saying and that have influenced me throughout my entire life. And I just write them anyway and just know. And the nicest thing about being in this place in your life is that when you look at the review section, you don't even have to look at how many stars you get. You don't have to look at, and you can just read them sort of dispassionately and treat the negative ones exactly the same as the positive ones. I used to have this metaphor that I always used to use. You probably heard me use it on the radio show in the last few years. When someone would be all upset, especially when I was counseling with young people, and they'd be all upset about what their friends said and so on, and they say, what makes you so upset? Well, they called me a jerk, or they said I was terrible, or they told a lie about me, and I'm just so upset. Why would they do that? And I would say to them, well, let's just stop. I said, today they think that you're a jerk. Tomorrow they might think that you're, a surfboard, or they might think that you're a tree, or they might call you a car and tell you to get down on your knees. They've got a funnel. They're going to pour gasoline into your ear because you're a car today. Would you be a car because somebody else thought that you were a car and told you that you were a car, or a surfboard, or a tree? You said, well, of course not. I couldn't be that. And I said, well, why would you then allow their opinions of you being a jerk or you being a fool or you being, dishonest or whatever it is that they've said about you? It's no different than if they've called you something else. You have to be independent of the good opinion of other people.